When I was younger, I truly believed successful people were different. I thought they had something special that I didn't. A big idea. Confidence. Connections. Luck. I remember feeling anxious about it. I was scared that I would never have that one revolutionary idea that changes everything. That one moment where life suddenly makes sense. I said this out loud to someone I really respected. I said, "What if I never come up with something big?" And his answer completely changed how I think. He said, "You don't need to reinvent success. You need to recognize what already works and make it your own." At the time, it sounded simple. Almost too simple. But the longer I live, the more powerful it becomes. Because when you actually study people who make money consistently, most of them didn't invent anything new. They took existing models and applied them in their own way. In their own environment. With their own limitations. They didn't guess. They observed. They didn't wait for confidence. They built it through action. Most people don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because they are overwhelmed. Too many options create paralysis. Dropshipping. Crypto. Amazon. Freelancing. Content creation. Reselling. When everything looks possible, the brain chooses the safest option, which is doing nothing. This is why one of the most important lessons you can learn is that clarity comes after action, not before. People think they need to fully understand something before they start. In reality, understanding comes from starting. Side hustles work for people who are willing to be confused at the beginning. Willing to look inexperienced. Willing to learn in public or in silence. This willingness matters more than intelligence or talent. When I talk about patterns, I don't mean copying someone's life. I mean recognizing repeated behaviors. Every successful reseller starts small and studies demand. Every successful freelancer undercharges at first and raises prices later. Every successful content creator posts consistently long before anyone is watching. These patterns are uncomfortable, boring, and unglamorous. And that's exactly why they work. Before we go deeper, I want to address the thought many of you have right now. You're probably thinking, "This sounds good, but it won't work for me." Maybe you think the market is too crowded. Maybe you think you're too late. Maybe you think you don't live in the right place. Almost everyone who succeeds starts with these exact doubts. The difference is that they let reality decide, not fear. Let's talk about reselling. This is one of the most misunderstood side hustles in the world. People say it's dead. People say eBay doesn't work anymore. People say everything is controlled by Amazon. But reselling never disappeared. It evolved. It moved into niches. Collectibles. Vintage items. Refurbished electronics. Rare products. When someone wants a specific item, speed doesn't matter. Accuracy does. Reselling is not luck. It's attention. Successful resellers don't guess. They study sold listings. They analyze prices. They watch how fast items move. They treat reselling like research, not gambling. They scale slowly. They reinvest profits. They protect themselves from losses. One of the most powerful things about reselling is accessibility. You don't need money to start. You don't need suppliers. You don't need a brand. You already have inventory. Clothes you don't wear. Shoes you forgot about. Electronics in drawers. That's not clutter. That's your first market test. I read about a girl in her early 20s working retail and living paycheck to paycheck. She started by selling items from her closet. At first, she felt embarrassed. She thought no one would buy them. But items started selling, one by one. And with each sale, something changed. Not just her income, her confidence. She began noticing patterns. Certain brands sold faster. Certain styles got more attention. Within months, she wasn't guessing anymore. She was sourcing intentionally. That side hustle didn't make her rich, but it gave her control. Control is something people rarely talk about. Side hustles are not just about money. They're about options. They give you the ability to say no, to slow down, to choose. That mental shift alone is powerful. Now let's move to another side hustle that follows a very similar pattern, but in a different form. Freelancing. This is one of the most accessible ways to start making money online, and at the same time, one of the most misunderstood. When people hear the word freelancing, they immediately think of advanced skills. Coding, graphic design, video editing, things that feel intimidating. And because of that, most people talk themselves out of starting before they even try. But freelancing, at its core, is very simple. Freelancing is just offering a service that saves someone else time. That's it. Businesses do not only need experts. They need help. They need support. They need someone to take tasks off their plate. Writing short texts, posting content, organizing files, responding to emails, creating simple designs using basic tools, editing simple videos. These are not complex skills, but they're valuable because they free up time. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is assuming they need to feel ready before offering a service. They think they need confidence first, experience first, a perfect profile first. In reality, confidence comes after action. Experience comes from doing. And no one's profile looks perfect at the beginning. Successful freelancers didn't start as experts. They started as beginners who were willing to learn while working. Another common mistake is trying to look professional instead of being useful. People spend weeks designing logos, building websites, and rewriting bios instead of actually helping someone. Clients don't care how polished you look at the start. They care if you respond on time. They care if you follow instructions. They care if you deliver what you promised. Reliability beats talent in the early stages every single time. There's a reason freelancing works so well as a side hustle. Demand already exists. You are not convincing people they need something new. You are stepping into a market where people are already looking for help. That lowers the risk significantly. Instead of creating demand, you are responding to it. This is why freelancing is often one of the fastest ways to make your first dollar online. I came across a story of a college student who started freelancing simply because he needed money for tuition. He didn't know how to code. He didn't know design. What he did know was how to write clearly. That was it. So he started offering simple writing services, short emails, product descriptions, basic website text. His first client paid him very little. Not because his work was bad, but because he was learning. That first job turned into a review. That review turned into another client. And slowly, his confidence grew. By the time he graduated, freelancing wasn't a side hustle anymore. It was his main income. Nothing fancy, just consistency. Freelancing also teaches something deeper that most people don't realize at first. It teaches you how to price your time. When you work a job, your time is priced for you. When you freelance, you start making decisions. How long does this task take? What is that time worth? Is this worth saying yes to? Those questions change how you think. Once you realize your time has value, it becomes very hard to ignore that truth. You stop wasting hours on things that don't move you forward. Another reason freelancing scales well is flexibility. You decide how much you take on. You decide when you work. You decide what you improve next. Many freelancers start with simple tasks and slowly specialize. They raise prices. They work with fewer clients. They earn more without working more. This progression is not fast, but it is very real. Now, let's talk about why most people quit freelancing early. It's not because it doesn't work. It's because the beginning feels uncomfortable. Sending proposals feels awkward. Charging money feels uncomfortable. Receiving feedback feels personal. And because of that discomfort, many people stop before momentum has a chance to build. The people who succeed are not more confident. They are simply more patient with discomfort. Let's move to another side hustle that often gets overlooked because it feels too simple. Tutoring. Many people assume tutoring is only for teachers or experts. That's not true. If you are good at one subject, you already have something valuable. Math, science, English, test prep, homework help. These skills are always in demand. Tutoring works especially well because trust builds quickly. When someone understands something because of you, that creates a strong connection. Parents want reliability. Students want clarity. They don't need perfection. They need someone who shows up, explains clearly, and cares just a little more than expected. I read about a high school student who started tutoring younger kids in math. He didn't plan to build a business. He just wanted extra cash. He helped one student, then another. Parents started recommending him. He moved everything online. Flexible hours. Video calls. By the time he graduated, he had a waiting list. What started as a few hours a week became steady income. Not because he was special, because he solved a real problem consistently. Another important aspect of tutoring is predictability. Unlike many side hustles, tutoring allows you to plan your time and income more clearly. That makes it less stressful for people who already have busy schedules. You know when you work. You know what you earn. That stability matters more than people realize. Now I want to talk about something that connects all of these side hustles together. And that is mindset. Specifically, how making money outside of a job changes the way you see the world. When you earn even a small amount on your own, something shifts. You stop seeing your employer as the only source of income. You stop feeling completely dependent. You realize that money is connected to value, not permission. This realization is powerful. It doesn't mean you quit your job. It means you stop feeling trapped. You start seeing options. And once you see options, your behavior changes. You become more intentional with your time. You start asking better questions. You start thinking long-term. Most people think side hustles fail because of competition. In reality, most side hustles fail because people quit too early. They quit when results are slow. They quit when they feel awkward. They quit when they don't get validation. The people who succeed are the ones who stay long enough for small wins to compound. This brings us to content creation. Content creation is one of the most misunderstood side hustles because people expect results too quickly. They expect views, likes, comments, growth. When those things don't happen immediately, they assume it doesn't work. But content creation follows a different timeline. Content creation rewards consistency, not talent. The people who succeed are not always the most entertaining or confident. They are the ones who keep showing up when no one is watching. They treat content as practice. Every post is feedback. Even silence is feedback. There's a woman I follow who started posting videos documenting her journey. She wasn't teaching. She wasn't selling. She was simply sharing what she was learning. Her early videos got almost no views. Most people would have stopped. She didn't. She stayed consistent. Months later, brands started reaching out. Not because she was famous. Because she was real. Content creation also creates leverage. It opens doors to opportunities you can't always predict. Freelance clients, partnerships, products, speaking opportunities. It rarely pays at first. But when it does, it can change everything. Before we move to the final part, I want you to remember this. None of these side hustles are secret. None of them are new. They work because people commit long enough to get good. They work because people accept being beginners. They work because people focus on progress instead of perfection. At this point, I want to slow everything down. Not because we are running out of ideas, but because this is where most people lose the meaning of side hustles. They get stuck in tactics, platforms, tools, strategies. And they forget that side hustles are not just about doing something extra. They're about changing the relationship you have with your time, your effort, and your future. Most people fail at side hustles for a very simple reason. They expect motivation to last. They expect excitement. They expect visible results early. But real progress rarely feels exciting at the beginning. It feels repetitive. It feels uncertain. It feels boring. And boredom is where most people quit. Not because it doesn't work, but because it doesn't emotionally reward them fast enough. This is why so many side hustles die quietly. Not with a dramatic failure, but with silence. A missed week. Then another. Then the idea is slowly forgotten. The people who succeed are not more motivated. They are more patient with discomfort. They understand that discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that learning is happening. One of the biggest misconceptions about side hustles is that they are supposed to feel good all the time. In reality, side hustles feel like learning a new language. At first, everything feels awkward. You don't know the rules. You make mistakes. You compare yourself to people who sound fluent. And if you don't understand that this phase is normal, you assume something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. This phase is required. Every successful person you see online has gone through a period where they felt invisible, where they questioned themselves, where they wondered if it was worth continuing. The difference is not talent or luck. The difference is that they stayed long enough for momentum to form. Momentum is misunderstood. People think momentum comes from big wins. In reality, momentum comes from repetition. Showing up again after nothing happened the last time. Posting again after no one watched. Listing another item after one didn't sell. Sending another proposal after rejection. This is what builds momentum. Quiet repetition. I want to talk about fear, because fear shows up differently at this stage. Early on, fear looks like hesitation. Later, it looks like perfectionism. People tell themselves they are improving or preparing, but what they are really doing is avoiding exposure. Avoiding being seen. Avoiding being judged. Avoiding being wrong. But growth requires exposure. You cannot improve what you hide. Another thing that stops people is the fear of wasting time. People say, what if I try this for months and it doesn't work? But a better question is, what if I spend months doing nothing and stay exactly where I am? Trying a side hustle is rarely wasted time. Even if it doesn't become your main income, it teaches you how systems work, how people buy, how value is exchanged, how attention moves. Those lessons stay with you. Comparison is another silent killer. When you watch people online who are already successful, it's easy to forget how long it took them to get there. You see the result, not the repetition. You see the highlight, not the hundreds of attempts before it. When you compare your beginning to someone else's middle, you will always feel behind. The solution is not to stop consuming content. The solution is to measure progress against your past self, not someone else's present. Let's talk about consistency in a more realistic way. Consistency is not about doing something every day perfectly. It's about not stopping completely. It's about returning after breaks. It's about continuing even when motivation is low. Especially when motivation is low. Side hustles reward people who can continue through boredom, not people who rely on excitement. This is especially true for content creation. Content creation is one of the clearest examples of delayed feedback. You can post for weeks or months with almost no response. And then suddenly, something works. One video performs better. One post gets shared. One person reaches out. And all the work you did quietly starts to compound. But that only happens if you are still there when the moment arrives. Another important concept is sustainability. A side hustle should fit your life, not consume it. Many people burn out because they copy the routine of someone who does this full-time, while still working a job or studying. That pace is not realistic. Sustainable side hustles are built slowly. A few hours a week. Small improvements. Gradual learning. That pace may feel slow, but it allows you to continue long enough to win. I want to share a story that illustrates this perfectly. I read about a man who started freelancing while working a full-time job. He could only dedicate 1 hour a day, sometimes less. He didn't try to scale fast. He didn't quit early. He focused on reliability and steady improvement. After 2 years, his freelance income quietly surpassed his job income. No viral moment. No dramatic leap. Just consistency. This is what side hustles look like for most people who succeed. Quiet. Boring. Consistent. And extremely powerful over time. Now let's talk about money, because expectations matter. Most side hustles do not replace a full-time income quickly. And that is not a failure. The real goal at the beginning is not freedom. It is proof. Proof that you can earn independently. Proof that your actions can create income. That proof changes how you think forever. Once you have proof, everything shifts. Negotiation feels different. Risk feels different. Planning feels different. You stop seeing money as something that only comes from one place. And that mindset shift often becomes more valuable than the income itself. Side hustles also evolve. Many people start in one place and end up somewhere completely different. Reselling teaches market awareness. Freelancing teaches communication and pricing. Content creation teaches storytelling and leverage. These skills stack. They open doors you could not predict at the beginning. This is why choosing the perfect side hustle matters far less than choosing one you can stick with long enough to learn. Action creates clarity. Movement creates direction. Waiting creates nothing. If you feel uncertain right now, that's normal. Uncertainty does not mean you are failing. It means you are standing at the edge of growth. Confidence does not come before action. Confidence comes from surviving discomfort and realizing you can handle more than you thought. I want to pause here before moving into the final section. Now I want to introduce one more side hustle that fits perfectly into everything we've been talking about because it follows the same core principles. It's not flashy. It's not new. But it works extremely well for people who want something scalable and flexible. Digital products. Digital products are often misunderstood because people imagine complex courses, huge audiences, or advanced expertise. But in reality, digital products can be very simple. Templates, checklists, guides, spreadsheets, short PDFs, systems that solve a specific problem for a specific type of person. That's it. The reason digital products work is because they turn effort into leverage. You do the work once, and it can sell multiple times. You are no longer trading hours for money directly. You are trading clarity and structure for value. And that makes digital products a powerful long-term side hustle. Most successful digital products are not created by experts. They're created by people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead of their audience. Someone who has just solved a problem is often better at explaining it than someone who solved it years ago. Because the pain is still fresh. The details are still clear. For example, someone who figured out how to budget their income could create a simple budgeting spreadsheet. Someone who learned how to apply for jobs efficiently could create a job application tracker. Someone who figured out how to organize freelance clients could create a simple system for that. These products don't need to be perfect. They need to be useful. I've seen people create digital products with no audience at all. They shared them in small communities. They posted about them casually. They added them to their content over time. Slowly, sales started coming in. Not huge numbers, but consistent ones. And consistency is what matters. Digital products also combine beautifully with content creation. Content builds trust. Digital products monetize that trust without pressure. You don't need to sell aggressively. You simply offer a tool that helps. This creates a very natural ecosystem. What's important to understand is that digital products are not passive at the beginning. You still need to test, adjust, improve. But once something works, it can continue working quietly in the background. That's powerful. Now let's zoom out even further, because by this point you might be thinking, okay, I understand the options. But how do I choose? And this is where most people overthink. They look for the best side hustle instead of the best side hustle for them. The right side hustle is not the one that makes the most money on paper. It's the one you can actually stick with. The one that fits your energy, your schedule, your personality, your current life. A side hustle that looks perfect but doesn't fit your reality will fail. A simple side hustle that fits your life has a chance to grow. Another thing people rarely talk about is seasons of life. What works for you now may not work forever. And that's okay. Side hustles evolve as you do. Many people start with something very simple and later transition into something more scalable. There is no single path. There is only movement. Let's talk about patience, because patience is not passive. Patience is active. It's showing up without immediate rewards. It's continuing without external validation. It's trusting a process you can't fully see yet. That kind of patience is rare. And that's why it's valuable. Most people quit right before things start working. Not because they failed, but because they didn't realize how close they were. Progress often feels slowest right before a breakthrough. That's not motivation talk. That's how compounding works. Compounding applies to skills, confidence, and opportunities. Every small action builds on the last. Even when you can't see it. Even when it feels pointless. Especially then. Another important concept is identity. The moment you start seeing yourself as someone who can create income, everything changes. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "How do I do this better?" That shift is subtle, but it's everything. Side hustles also teach responsibility. When something doesn't work, there is no one to blame. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also empowering. Because if something doesn't work, you can change it, adjust it, improve it. That level of control is rare in traditional paths. Now I want to address something directly. You do not need to turn your side hustle into a full-time business. That is not the goal for everyone. A side hustle can simply be a way to reduce stress, to create a buffer, to feel safer. That is success too. Some people want freedom. Some people want security. Some people want both. Side hustles can serve different purposes at different times. There is no correct outcome. What matters is starting. And starting does not require confidence. It requires willingness. Willingness to try. Willingness to learn. Willingness to be bad at something temporarily. If you are waiting to feel ready, you will wait forever. No one feels ready. The people you admire didn't feel ready either. They just started anyway. I want to slow this down for a moment because this part matters. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are simply at the beginning of something you haven't tried yet. And beginnings always feel uncomfortable. If you've made it this far, listening to all of this, take that as a sign. Not a promise. Not a guarantee. A sign that you are capable of more than you are currently doing. And that curiosity is enough to begin. Pick one path. Just one. Not forever. Just for now. Give it time. Give it effort. Give it patience. Let yourself learn. Because success is rarely loud. It's usually quiet. Built slowly. Repeated daily. And invisible for a long time. And then one day, you look back and realize you are no longer where you started. That's how side hustles really work.